Hello fantastic creatures, I'm Fantasims and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to start the first phase of building this super creepy haunted mansion together. Okay, so this is my second time recording this voiceover video because I just recorded it and I sounded like a bumbling buffoon. But I really can't guarantee this take will be any better. My ADD has been off the chazane this week. Oh my gosh, what am I saying? I'm so sorry I said that. Slap me thrice and hand me to me mama. Oh my goodness. We are off to a good start already. And also, as I hit record, I really started to need to pee, but I have 30 minutes to record, so I'm just gonna wiggle. So I'm doing a wiggle dance right now. You can't see me, but I'm wiggling. It's probably good that you can't see me because you'd be traumatized. Anyway, onto this build. So I started this build as like a vampire estate, and so I'm using a lot of objects from the vampire pack, and I've been playing around lately with layering things like layering windows, and later on I start using doors as windows, and it's just fun because you can come up with your own custom looking stuff. So I used these Debug gravestones as details for the bottom of the columns, but I forgot later on that if you try and put a floor underneath these particular gravestones, they turn into those vampire urns with like vampire wings on them. So I later then had to delete some of the floor that I made. So it's a fun thing. You can't use it indoors, but you can use it outdoors, so that's fun. And I came up with this idea of having this really grand tower as the pre-entrance, like an entrance before the entrance to the castle, estate, build, whatever this is. And I liked it. It's different, but I liked it. And I love archways, so I put a little archway tunnel between it. And I figured it was kind of like extra protective measures to prevent people you don't want coming up to your door. Like they have to go through all of these doorways before they can actually get into the build. I don't know why, but it made sense to my brain at the time. And so I'm just decorating. I layered the roof to give it a bit more shape. And I really love the debug objects in vampires because it's got all of that like wrought iron posts and stuff like that. And in the debug menu, you can also get, like the arched doorway with the gargoyle on it that comes in build mode. Well, there's a debug version, and that's cool because you can size it up and down, and you don't have to worry about it causing a hole in your wall, so you can use it as decoration as well. So I'm just making all the levels that this tower leads up to. I don't know what to put in the tower. You guys can let me know. I also thought of having it go down into the basement. So it's like I want to have all these secret basements throughout the whole build, where the basements aren't connected, but you can go down to these secret layers and each one is a different thing. And I had you guys vote, not really vote, but like give your feedback on Twitter, because I was toying with the idea of doing like a creepy asylum dungeon underground, and I didn't know whether to just stick to vampires or whether I should make it a Victorian torture chamber or whatever, because in real life I'm a nice person, I promise, and I hate horror movies, I hate gore, I hate the thought of anyone suffering, especially animals and children and stuff like that. So I really don't like watching that kind of stuff or thinking about that kind of stuff. But I don't know, I just really felt like for this build, it would be fun to just do this horrible torture basement, and I'm making myself sound like a really wicked creep. But I just came up with that idea and everyone seemed to like it on Twitter, so we're going to run with it. So one of the main parts of the basement is going to be that. Anyway, something I've been trying to challenge myself with my builds lately is to try and come up with more unique build shapes. I mean, I don't think I've ever been that bad at creating layouts at the end. I mean, I'm a mess until I get to the end of the build. At the beginning of the build, I've got weird shaped rooms and weird boxes and towers everywhere that don't look good together. But I've been trying to think ahead and plan ahead a little bit more. I didn't plan ahead that far with this build. I really only thought of this part right here with the entrance and how it leads into kind of this side area, kind of like Hogwarts Castle, if you, half of you probably don't even know what I'm talking about, but like there's like this great hall in this tower, and there's like this side entrance archway off into like where the kids, like the castle part where all the kids sleep, their dorms are and everything. And it's just fun when you create all of these entrances. They all look grand, they all look like they could be the main entrance, but I don't know, just the architectural detail is fun. And I love layering the wall decorations and the outdoor wall decorations like awnings and stuff to create like stone architecture, like 3D architecture. It's just fun. And then I had no clue how to shape this shell, and originally I'm on a smaller lot in Brindleton Bay, and I ended up moving it over to a 64 by 64. You guys know me. I started off small, but I can't help it. It's like I'm a large lot addict. I can't help it. I just, as I start to build, I'm like, ooh, add more and add more and add more, and I go a bit overboard. And this build is definitely overboard, which is why it's taking me forever, and why I decided to put it in a 2-part video. Originally, I just wanted to have it done, and I could have been done by now. I really could have, but my ADD, I don't know what it is. Well, at the moment, I'm not on any medication because it just sets my nervous system on edge. So I need to see my psychiatrist to see if we can do try some non-stimulant ADD medication, because I'm really struggling to focus. And like when you have ADD, you know in the front of your head, like you can physically feel it in the front of your head. You know that the task in front of you can see what's in front of you, but it's like how to actually accomplish it comes from the back of your brain. I don't know the exact part of your brain, but with ADD, like the neurons that connect the back of your brain to your prefrontal cortex aren't firing, like they don't have the chemical reactions that a normal brain does. So it can be really hard to get from point A to point B in your thinking and in physically doing stuff. So I'm just staring at the screen like I know that I'm supposed to be doing this and this and this, but I just can't think of the steps of how to get there in my brain. It's really weird and it's really annoying. But anyway, so I've been really struggling with that this week. I've tried starting so many videos. I recorded a tutorial and then found out that Twisted Mexi has actually updated his mod to do something super cool, which kind of makes my tutorial video obsolete. So I just thought, you know what? This build is taking too long. I didn't finish it the time frame I wanted to. So I'm just going to do a part 1 and a part 2, so at least I have a video up so that you guys can see what I'm working on. And it kind of works out anyway because I took so long to build this and it has so many details that it kind of needs to be in 2 parts. Otherwise, I mean, I already sped this up super fast, but I didn't want to speed it up as fast as I just did for my, I keep wanting to say Millennium Falcon, the Mortal Engines dystopian tank wheel thingy that I built. That video, I mean, I sped up the footage so fast on that and it still was almost an hour, so it probably works better to split it up into parts for builds like this. Anyway, I'm yammering on, but basically I've just created some curved patio areas, and I can't remember what pack that is from. Is that from Journey to Batuu, or who knows? Anyway, I wanted to use a bit of brown in contrast with the black, and I keep changing the color swatches of the walls. I do this all the time, and I didn't record all of it. But, oh, before I get into that, as you just saw, those Realm of Magic debug buildings, if you go to the Realm of Magic and you try and purchase like wands and stuff, they come out of those buildings. And if you look at the back of the buildings in the world, they're floating up and down, and they have them in debug, in the regular debug menu, like the live edit objects cheat. Anyway, and in live mode, your furniture, you can't use the furniture, but the decorative furniture in those debug objects float up and down. And if you decrease the size of the outside brick building, the furniture stays the same size. So what I did was I sized it down, and then later on I sized it down with the tool mod to be like 0.001, so it's invisible, but the furniture is still there, so it's just floating around. So I thought that would look so spooky and cool. Although in live mode, if you get too close to it, it disappears. But that's kind of cool too, because then it's like it's haunted, like you just saw furniture floating around and then it disappears and you're like, did I just see that? So I feel like that's extra spooky, and it kind of fits it perfectly. Anyway, I can't even remember what I was saying before that. Whatever, who cares? Anyway, so over here I'm trying to figure out the layout because I didn't want to just create the exterior shell and not give thought to what the interior is going to look like, because sometimes when I build a shell on the outside and I try and make something look really cool on the outside, when I go to furnish it on the inside, I just end up with really weirdly shaped rooms, and I'm like, oh, I didn't think that through very well. So this time I thought, well, I'll at least think a couple of them through as best as I can, so that I'm not left with odd-shaped rooms. And so I did that grand entrance and started to think about how to put the rooms on the side, and it was getting bigger and bigger, and I wasn't sure if it would just look too boxy, because I didn't want to have this huge grand entrance and then have these dinky little rooms off to the side. It just seems pointless when the entire part, like the biggest part of your mansion, is the entrance, but then all the rooms inside the mansion are super tiny. That didn't make sense. So I tried to incorporate some bigger rooms so that the size of the entrance made sense. And then I was trying to come up with some custom roof decorations with chairs. And then I made this room where I copied and pasted the windows that I had already made in the beginning, and turn them into a room that I could copy and paste a couple other places around the build, because that way you create consistency in the architectural style and shape, and it's easier because then you're not like putting up all these windows from scratch. And I did the same thing with this tower here, where I took the decorations from that one and I copied and pasted it throughout the other towers that I do. I did rearrange things slightly differently, but I pretty much used the same objects throughout the whole build, just to make it easier, just to make it look more cohesive. And it didn't copy and paste that well. Like, I copied and pasted it and it was missing some of the objects, so I did have to like fix up stuff, but it was still faster than like building it from scratch each time I did a tower or a room like this. And then this I thought could be, I don't know, a spooky shed where the groundskeeper would tend to the garden or whatever, and it's got a ladder, or not a ladder, it's got a staircase down into another basement area, but I don't know what to put in that basement. I might put like a vampire crypt. Who knows? You guys can let me know. Like, I want the other basement areas to be different to the main dungeon that I'll be doing, because the main dungeon is like a very exclusive secret place that only the person who owned the building knew about. And my thought process with this build was that it's kind of got a bit of a castle feel, like it was built before Victorian times, before Renaissance times, you know, kind of medieval-ish, but then over the years it got converted until finally the last time it got worked on was during the Victorian era, and ever since then it's just been haunted and it's been falling into disrepair. And then I created this tower, which I know when you make really tall towers, it can cause your camera to jump around a lot, which we all find super annoying. So I'm not going to be putting anything super important, detrimental to the game in that tower. Maybe a couple activities that you might want to do every once in a while, but most of the majority of the stuff will be on the first 2 floors. That way you don't have to worry about jumping cameras as much. But I thought there could be a cool story in that tower, like in the past there was a bride and groom, and the groom like tried to bump his bride off, and maybe he like threw her off the tower or something. It's so morbid, but anyway, and so her ghost still haunts the tower. So I'm thinking of dressing up some mannequins, like white mannequins in white clothing, and then using lights to make them glow all spooky, so there's these ghosts all around the castle. So I haven't done that yet, but I'll do that for the next video. And I don't know, just some fun stories, and maybe you guys can come up with stories, because I wanted it to almost be not just one story that shapes this build, but because it's got such a history, like lots of creepy things have happened in this building, and that's why it's so haunted. And in real life I don't believe in ghosts, but it's fun to create fantasy stories based on them. And then on this side I was trying to, like I said, I'd created this massive entrance, and I wanted to make sure that I had big enough rooms off to the side to make that entrance make sense. And so I came up with this idea of doing this big archway area, which was cool, but it was too chunky. It just ended up looking too chunky, and it kind of has a feel of the Great Hall from Harry Potter, but I don't know, the build just didn't suit that shape, I didn't think. So then I ended up deleting it, but I included the footage because sometimes, well, oftentimes people make comments to me like, wow, I wish I knew how to just build stuff like you do. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing most of the time. Like, I can't figure it out till I'm done with the build, and I'm like, oh yeah, it all came together okay. You know, but as I'm building, that's what really takes me so long. So I actually do a lot of stuff off camera too, and you'll see it coming up where you'll see all the towers that end up being white, and that's because after spending time trying to create this part of the build, I deleted it, and then I moved on. Off camera I spent like, I don't know, 2 hours trying to reshape the shell. But I didn't record it because I have this thing where I don't know whether it's ADD or whether it's being an introvert or whatever, but my brain freezes when I'm on the spot, and for some reason recording myself feels like I'm being put on the spot, like people are watching me even though no one is, and I could edit the footage, but it takes so much work to edit all the footage out. I just leave everything in now. I can't be bothered. So would it save an extra 5 minutes? Probably. So now I just don't even record some footage that doesn't seem as necessary as the rest. And also because when I'm off camera, I can think clearly and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just add this shell here, or I'll put this shape here, or I'll add that there. But when I'm recording myself, I feel like I constantly have to have a solid flow of ideas. And I know I can hit the pause button, which I do a lot when I'm recording. I pause things all the time, every 2 seconds, but it can get a bit annoying. So sometimes I like to just put on Netflix and there it is. There's all the towers I added. So I'm sorry I didn't show you in detail how I made that shell shape, but basically most of the shape is just on the outside. Like, it looks like it's got all these, I mean, it does have towers, but it looks like it's all these tiny little towers, which we all know decorating in the tiny towers is so difficult. So, but on the inside it's very square, and it does have those round shapes from the towers, but they're all attached to the main square rooms. So it's not like you have to try and decorate a round room all the time. There's a lot of square shapes on the inside, which will be much easier to decorate and much bigger to decorate. And then I also wanted to use different swatches of bricks and walls, and just so that it didn't all look black, because when everything is black, there's not enough light and shading in the game to create the kind of contrast you need. So it just ends up looking like one big black blob, and nobody wants that. So, and also, if you notice the super spiky towers, it's because I was using Arnie's Pro Build mod. It's an older mod, but it still works really well. And you can elevate the height of the roof, and it won't get flagged as custom content. And if you download this and you don't have the mod installed, the roof will still look like that. In fact, I don't have the mod installed at this point. I just installed it. It's just one package file that you put in your mods folder. And I took it out because I know that, I mean, my game runs pretty well. It does have days where it lags a bit, but for the most part, my game runs pretty well. But if I add too many things to it, like too many mods running at the same time, I don't notice a massive lag in it, but I just, anything to help it flow a bit smoother. So that's how you can get those super spiky roofs, which is awesome. But I will say though that up on that roof level, the camera jumps around like crazy because of the roof heights, but it's okay because no one's going to be up on that roof level, so that's fine. And then I added more of the same kind of decoration throughout with these, not canopies, balconies. And I had a lot of fun using the T.O.O.L mod to make everything look all higgledy-piggledy afterwards, which was super fun. And then what am I even doing here? Oh, I'm just adding the roofing tops. And oh, that's the great thing about the platform, is you can make those flat top Victorian style roofing. And then if you see a lot of doors around, that's because I just laid out a bunch of doors that I thought could be cool to use with windows. And that's what I start doing at this part of the build, is I start adding doors layered on top of windows, because the glass doors that we have in the game from various different packs are actually really cool looking, and I think they look great as architectural details. And the best thing about it, just like windows, the outside of the door has the outdoor lighting, but the inside has the indoor lighting, so you can end up using doors as like wood paneling around the building, and that way the inside and the outside is decorated and you're not stuck with indoor lighting on the inside. And then I wanted to create different terrain heights just to give it some flow to the build, interesting shapes to the build. And I created that greenhouse off to the side. It's very tiny, and I layered windows on top of each other, but I noticed that the top layer of windows, I think because they touch the bottom floor or the top floor, but whenever you have a window between floors, it can sometimes make them really black on the inside. It blacks them out, so I might have to change that. And then for this slope, I painted it first to get a sense of the shape that I wanted. And then this took like an hour, maybe not an hour, maybe 40 minutes or something. It took forever. But there's this trick that I learned this from Kate Emerald and then also from Sadie Sim. When you if you can still see the grass coloring or however you painted it as like a solid color going down the slope, your sim will be able to run up and down it. But if it looks like the brown around the edging where it's really steep, your sim won't be able to walk up it. So long as you can still see the terrain paint or the original grass color, then it's walkable. And so I wanted to create a slope up into the castle. I just thought it would look a lot more grand and spooky than just having lots of staircases everywhere. And then over on this side, I decided I wanted to kind of make a pool or something. It's kind of a weird shape, the round deck shaping. And then this is a debug object that can only be accessed through Arnie's World Edit mod. I made a video about this, same with this waterfall I'm making here. Those are debug objects that are already in the game, so they won't be flagged as custom content if you use them. Sorry, I'm like really burpy right now, and I'm trying to make it not sound like, I hope you can't hear me burping, because I drank a fizzy coconut water and now it's stuck in my throat. Anyway, so I wanted to use these objects that you can only find with the World Edit mod, but I have actually saved a lot of those objects in my gallery that you can find. Currently, my gallery name is Simspiration84. It's supposed to be Fantasims, but it keeps bumping me back to my old name. So you can hashtag either one and find it. You can check in the description below. I have it listed there. And these waterfalls are super cool. And I kind of ended up layering too many of them on top of each other, so it's a lot brighter than it looks here. So I might end up having to delete some of them. But what I love about it is in live mode, it flows, so it looks really cool. I don't know, just adding water features always makes a build look so much cooler. And then I just used like the Realm of Magic twisty stones, because I thought that suited the spookiness of the build really well. And I love that planet moon thing I put in the back. I thought it had that perfect silhouette of like when you see a haunted castle or a haunted house with the big glowing full moon in the background. So I wanted it to look like that. And the cool thing is that when you rotate the build around on the backside to look into the rooms, it disappears. It's invisible from the back. So it's not going to interfere with gameplay, which is awesome. And then I just was trying to layer a ton of objects to hide parts. And the hard part about this is that when you make rounded towers that cut into square-shaped rooms, you have to, sometimes it's really hard to come up with lots of decorations around it, because then it starts to poke into the rooms, which it doesn't really matter on this one because that's just a tower that you're not really going to be able to access anyway. It's just architectural detail. And I'm also jumping around different parts of the build too because, well, you guys know, ADD brain, I'm all over the place. And I start one thing and completely forget to finish it, just like my sentences. I start talking about something and then get distracted and I'm like, whatever. So hopefully some of this makes sense because my brain ain't working. And I love using columns. You know how you can stretch them to more than one floor, but I just don't like when you drop the walls down or you go the level below that they're just sticking up. So I try not to use too many of them. And then here I'm rotating debug planks that can be rotated. Some of those objects I couldn't remember if they could be rotated or not, so I test it out every time because you'd think I'd remember by now, but I don't. Anyway, I rotated all these planks because I thought it would be cool to have that boarded up look, like when a derelict building has like planks of wood all over it to seal in the windows and stuff like that. Also, using these planks to cover up stuff is a great excuse to not fully decorate an area of the build. Just throw a bunch of planks all over it like it looks like it's falling apart, and there you go. You don't even have to worry about what it looks like behind the planks. So I did that because I didn't feel like super decorating everything. Because honestly, I thought putting the windows in would take like an hour, but I'm still putting windows in and I haven't finished the build yet, so it's taking forever. And here's where I used doors as windows, and all I had to do was figure out a way to cover the door handle so that it didn't look so obvious as a door, which I got a lot better at later on. But it's just fun because they add so much detail, architectural detail. And then this part of the build, I thought it would be really fun to have the roof, like I separated the roof as if the roof is caved in at that part and you can just see the beams. And normally I'm very much of a perfectionist and I probably would have wanted to rotate the beams a lot better because they look a bit weird. but I just didn't care. I was like, you know, so long as you get the impression of what I was going for, that's all that matters, because there is so much detail in this build. I didn't want to end up spending like 2 hours decorating one tiny little piece of the build when I've got all this other part, which I kind of ended up doing in some areas anyway, but at least I didn't do it in every area. And then I just used more of the vampire debug iron post thingies and the get together roof decorations. We definitely need more roof decorations, but anyway, I used that to spruce up the roofing. And it's funny because sometimes it doesn't seem like it makes that much of a noticeable difference, but then after you keep layering stuff and put it all together and you zoom out and you look at it, you're like, oh, actually that does look better than just having a plain roof. Sometimes I go a bit overboard with the decor. You probably think I go super overboard, but it could be worse, which is probably not a great thing to think about, how gaudy my build would look if I was completely unleashed on them with all my overly decorative impulses. Anyway, what am I even saying? This is that Debug Realm of Magic thingy that I was telling you about with the floating furniture. It's just so fun. Anyway, so I did this creepy kids room, and I had to use T.O.O.L mod to lower the curtains, but then when I changed the wallpaper later, it ends up deleting all those curtains, so I have to redo them. But whatever, it's fine. I know what I did, so it's fine. And the weird thing was, when I was working on this build, all of these people showed up and I had not even pressed a play button. I promise you, I hadn't pressed play in the game yet. I had it on pause while I was using T.O.O.L mod in live mode. T.O.O.L mod in live mode anyway, and all of a sudden there were all these kids in the room, and at that time I had so many objects in front of the entrance there was no way they could have got into it. So already my build is super spooky. And then I had a lot of fun with this, rotating the balconies off to the side, like tilting them slightly, and then using planks of wood as like a makeshift way to keep them from completely falling off the building. It's just quirky little moments like that I enjoy. And then I did another thing where I created 3/4 of a roof and did the same thing where I used planks, and I think I probably rotated these planks of wood, I think by like 45 degrees or something. Maybe it wasn't 45 degrees. I don't know. I kept tweaking it. But anyway, I tried to create like the scaffolding of the roof, and those are the debug ladders from Cats and Dogs. And I just put a bunch of planks on. I didn't care if it looked like that's how the architecture of a roof actually looks. It just gives the illusion and the impression that things are just falling apart. And that's basically all I wanted. It did take a few minutes. I think it probably took 15 minutes to do the roof, but that's not bad. But when you add all those 15 minutes up, this build ends up taking forever. And then I just added more debug objects to just really make it grungy over there. That's another Realm of Magic, like floating thing, because you know how in Realm of Magic, parts of the walls and everything are just floating in that pink outer space looking thing. And those are from Get Famous, those like floor clacks. Oh my goodness, I cannot speak. Floor cracks. Anyway, so I thought that helped give it a really crumbly look. And then I used one of those debug that you can get from Arnie's World Edit mod. And they've got some creepy looking sim mannequins that you can use. There's not a huge variety, which is a bummer. I wish that they had more. But anyway, and I just had this little boy sitting at the edge of the well, and I didn't want to think about a little boy drowning in the well, but it kind of does have that story of him being like a ghost haunting the well. And I was thinking of having him throughout the castle or the mansion as well, because there's a version of him standing up, and I thought that would look super creepy in like a dark hallway if there's just this creepy kid at the end of the hallway. The only thing is they're not dressed in Victorian clothing, but maybe some of these stories can be like, some of the ghosts can be from Victorian times, but then some of the ghosts can be from people who since Victorian times have stumbled across the estate and something tragic has happened to them. I don't know. Share your stories below what you think I could include, because I'm going to be dressing up 10 different mannequins to put throughout the estate to kind of create those stories. And then here I'm duplicating and rotating to fill in the gaps for the waterfall, so it just looks like this one massive waterfall, but it ends up looking very bright blue, which I don't know if that looks a bit too happy for such a grungy build, so I might have to delete some of them. I don't know, you can let me know what you think. And then I use these roots and twisted gnarled trees just to add the details of it looking overgrown and old. And I still haven't finished doing landscaping, but it's not going to take much time because I've already done most of it and there's not that many areas left. And then on this side I was creating a grungy pond, and at first I was trying to build a gazebo over it, but it ended up looking really dumb, so I deleted it. But you know what? Most of the time I do things wrong when I first do them. There's not really a wrong or a right, but just not as cool the first time. And a lot of times it's like, oh, I wish I could just do it the way I wanted it the first time. But a lot of times I come up with the ideas after seeing how I did it the way I didn't like it. Did that make any sense? Anyway, sometimes you just have to do things the wrong way, or a way that doesn't look as cool, for you to come up with the idea of how to make it look cool. Anyway, moving on because I'm blubbering up my words again. But I'm creating a dungeon, and originally I was going to keep my interior decor part of the footage to the part 2 of this build, but I couldn't be bothered to separate the footage, so here it is. And in this dungeon, this is where all the creepy torture is going to be, and I want it to be a mix of like medieval torture devices mixed with electricity, because during the Victorian era, that's when they had electricity. So I wanted some of like the Tesla coils, and off to the side, like some sort of like big steampunk looking mechanism that has electrical pulses coming out of it, and like maybe they're doing like electroshock therapy, but in a really, I mean it is barbaric, but in an even more barbaric way. And I created these little dungeon cells, and who knows what kind of nefarious things it will include. You guys can fill me in on some twisted ideas to include in it if you can think of any. Again, I don't like to think of people or anyone getting tortured, but I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of fun to create those things for this build. I want it to be spooky and twisted and gross, and yeah. Anyway, I went overboard with covering this tower with boards and planks because I couldn't figure out how I wanted to finish decorating it, so I just thought, just board the whole thing up. It'll be great. It'll be grand. So yes, so I just went nuts putting planks and beams all over it. It's a bit excessive, but I kind of like it. And then I don't know what to put on the inside, we'll see. Most of it, I'm going to be putting like holes in the floor, like jaggedy holes, and there's going to be like beams of wood sticking through floorboards as well. But that'll be for part 2 because I haven't got there yet, but that's my idea. And then again, did I mention that already? Putting the ghost up in the tower? I think I did, because I already recorded a voiceover for this. I can't remember what I've already said and what I haven't, but it's not that important. It's not like it's life-changing for me to share certain information about what I'm doing here. Anyway, I still have to board up a bunch of the windows because it's taking forever, but it's just fun, just putting planks of wood everywhere. And then I created like this makeshift not shelf, not patio, whatever it is. I don't know what to put up there. I mean, your sim can't access it, but I don't know, put some decoration on there, make it look a bit creepy. Maybe put a bunch of stray cats and dogs on it, who knows. And then on this, I'm covering up the door handles with all of those decorative items and shelves, and I love those rain chains from Snowy Escape because they move in live mode just a little bit, but also it's chains. I've been wanting something to have chains, and that will be perfect for the dungeon too. And then I used those chairs that I had and couches and stuff that I had stacked earlier to have like a custom roof decoration, and I finally found a place to put it on the roof. And is it necessary? No. But I thought it added a bit more shape to the build. And then I wanted to end this part 1 footage of me botching this up. I'm trying to turn one of those Debug mannequin sim thingies into like a jilted bride. And so I was using snow piles to try and cover up her legs so it looks like she's like sitting devastated on the floor. It just looked horrible. And actually someone on Twitter commented, that they thought it was one of the methods of torture for this build was to just like put Sims in a snow pile, which, you know what? Freezing cold, I do not like it. That would be torture for me, but I thought it'd be fun to show me doing something ridiculous because it's just silly, and I was trying so hard to make it look cool and it just did not, and I thought I'd include it because it's a good laugh. But anyway, there you go. Okie dokie artichokes, this is what I have so far. I was gonna wait to do this part of the part 1 of the video until I had all the landscaping done, but you know what? Like I said before, my ADD is so bad at the moment that I just really cannot focus on anything, so it is what it is, and I figured I'd at least release what I've done so far, because it is still a lot. Sorry, my game is really laggy today for some reason. Anyway, so here are the towers in the back, boarded up. I'm still boarding up this area, and here, we'll go in tab mode so it's a bit easier to see. I did make the roofing all different kind of shades, just to make it look a bit more interesting, so still some detailing work to do in the back. And then here's the front, and let's go down. My camera angle skills are very bad, I apologize. I'm really not very good with tab mode cameras, so I've jumped out of it. But let's go over into live mode, and if we play, see the water running down? I might delete some of them. I layered the waterfalls on top of each other to give this rounded shape, as you can see by like the seams right here. I might delete some of them because, I don't know, it does look good, but it's very bright, and in contrast to the very dark look of this build, it might look a bit too happy. But if I delete some of them, it'll make the water a little bit darker. I don't know, we'll see. Okay, I just deleted a bunch of all the cluttery things that I had in the front that I'm currently using to build. Just so you can see, I tried to create this eerie slope that mirrors some of the sickly colours, like that greenish colour and the greeny yellow colour, to kind of tie into these island living debug pool thingies. And then this is the part of the roof that's just broken down, looks like it's collapsed, like I said in the speed build footage. And then inside, it obviously needs to be decorated, but I do have some of it mapped out, and I quickly wanted to show you what I meant about how I resized this Realm of Magic debug object, because in live mode, if you press play, see how the furniture is floating up and down? Now I did have to elevate it from the floor below, but it's going to be the floor above, and as you can see, the roof has annoyingly cut in because I used platforms, so I'm going to have to delete that. I'm going to put a hole in the floor so it looks like this part of the floor is elevating up and down, moving around. And then here's a better view of like the side of the build, how I have this entrance tower leading into the main entrance of the build. So I'll just sweep around so you can get a better sense of what it looks like. And as you can see in this tower here, I have a spooky skeleton. I need to hide his arm because it's poking through. I might turn that into like a torch with fire coming out of it, and then it'll have red lighting inside so that at nighttime that just looks so spooky. So I'm going to have all of those kinds of hidden moments throughout the castle. And then if you're wondering what these debug Japanese things from Snowy Escape are, it's because, like I did for my snow castle, at night they give off these really cool colours. So this is like a bright, vibrant, ghostly teal colour that I'm going to use. And then it just illuminates objects, so I thought that would work perfect for ghosts. And then these debug objects give off an orange and a red glow, so I'll use tool mod to scale them down to make them invisible, but I thought that that would look really good for the nighttime to have all of those colours throughout the exterior and maybe the interior of the castle to just light it up and make it look super spooky. So let me know what you guys think. What ideas do you have for me to make this super spooky? What kinds of things can I add to it? What kind of things should I improve on? It's still not finished, so your suggestions, I can still incorporate your suggestions. And then the basement is a mess. Ignore it. I always make a mess before I finish building. You guys know that. I'm a messy builder. I'm a messy person in real life too, so it's kind of the same. And then here's the dungeon that I'm working on. And we're going to have like the Tesla coils and the Victorian styled electronic devices over here. We're going to have a creepy hospital ward in here, and then these are these dungeon cells where the people they're experimenting on are kept. Super creepy, super mean. I swear I'm not like this in real life. And then in these chambers, we'll put an activity so Sims can actually use the area so it's not just decoration. And yeah, that's what I have so far. I hope you guys enjoyed this part 1 work in progress speed build of this super spooky Victorian styled haunted mansion. I had a lot of fun building it, and I know several of you have said you are eagerly awaiting to download this and put it into your game. So if there are any things that I should include, be sure to let me know. If you enjoyed this video, please give it an encouraging thumbs up, hit subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified about fresh content. As always, guys, I love you so freaking much.